There are some things you just don't watch on a regular basis unless you're a gambler, like horse racing. I don't watch horse racing. I don't gamble on horse racing because if I gambled on horse racing, I would be homeless and divorced. That's just how it's going to be. It's homeless, and I don't bet on things. But when there's something special that comes along, I like to watch it. And then there's this, so the Kentucky Derby was up, and you're starting the start of the Triple Crown, and you've got this horse that the odds on favorite, and we're going to look at those the odds on favorite and the horse that beat him right after this.
Got it.
Okay, Jamie, set it up.
Yeah, so you kind of set it up good for us, right? I mean, a couple weeks ago we had the Kentucky Derby, and you had this horse called Journalism. Like, I don't know. First off, that just seems like an odd name for a horse for me, anyway. But if you look at some of the names of horses throughout the years in horse racing, they tend to have some kind of bizarre names from time to time. But nonetheless, you have this horse called Journalism, who, for all intents and purposes, is just going to win hands down. Not even really going to be much of a competition. And really, it's kind of even the odds favorite to probably potentially win the Triple Crown, which hasn't been done haven't done my homework, so I don't know how long, but it's been a while since that's happened. We're talking probably 20 plus years. So it rains, and you got a muddy mess. And then, amidst all of the mint juleps and the fancy hats and the pomp and circumstances of everything that's related to the Kentucky Derby, the horses go to the gates, they come out, and then you have this horse named Sovereignty. And I think, when you take it and you look at Journalism and you look at Sovereignty and you kind of just look at, the kind of where we are society wise right now, it was almost like it became a race, not between horses, but it almost became like this political battle. But it was even beyond that, right? And then you have this horse. So if you look at, think about the names. What does Journalism mean name wise, Bill?
Well,
when you think of journalism, what do you think?
Something just came to mind when you started talking about, it all seems the names alone seem a little political. And I'm thinking, yeah, they're both slinging mud.
And they did that day.
His mother was a mudder. His father was a mudder. It was just a muddy day. And another thought that came to mind, which is kind of off topic, and I'm sorry about this, but this is what happens to me too many times, is do they practice running in the mud to see if they're a better mudder runner than they are a dry? I don't know. See where I went. So we're back on the names. We got Sovereignty and we got Journalism. Yeah. So they're
running. When you think of journalism, what do you think of?
Lies. But
nowadays, yes, possibly.
Practically speaking, journalism is supposed to be people writing stories, showing the truth, showing the sides, showing the opinions, but pushing the truth and not a narrative. Now, the horse Journalism, the narrative is he's going to win it all. He's the odds-on favorite. He can't lose. That's what the favorite is. But then you've got Sovereignty. It sounds like the king is going to win, no matter what happens.
Yeah. So I kind of take it a little bit of a different direction. I think of journalism. If you think of just journalism at its roots, it should be something that's reliable, something that you can trust, right? And you can go all different kind of directions, especially in the political arena nowadays, as to what you believe about journalism or not. And I don't want us to go down that path, but that's kind of what you think of, at least from its core. But then you think about sovereignty, and sovereignty my thought is it's independence. It's I'm going to do it my way. Like, this is the way we do things here, whether you think of it from a country perspective, or you think of it from an organization perspective, or you think of it from a family, or even just as an individual. It's like, I have my own independence and I'm going to do it my way.
Right. Journalism sounds credible, calculated, reliable. That's what it's supposed
Yeah.
to be. And so you bet on journalism when you want to play it safe. And that's something that we need to grab hold of is we may not be succeeding in the things that we want to do because we're continually just playing it safe. I'm taking the safe bet. I'm taking journalism to win. That's what I'm taking. He's got to win.
Yeah.
It's the safest bet. Sovereignty was not a safe bet.
No, and you know, if you think of it from that perspective of like, I'm going to go against the odds. I'm going to do it my way, um, which means it's kind of unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen, right? So
Right,
if I'm setting out to become more sovereign, which means I have to become more um, unconventional, if you want to kind of think of it in those terms. So if you kind of take all of that and kind of think of it as just like applying those concepts to us as human beings. Because if you didn't watch the race, spoiler alert, sovereignty end up beating journalism.
right.
So you know
The
whether that's a
the long shot
you
beat
know
the favorite.
long shot beat the favorite. And then if you kind of think about the names the way we kind of described, and you have the tried and true expected, and then you have the unknown kind of a dreamer out there kind of doing their own thing, ends up winning.
Right.
So you have that. But now what does that how does that apply to us? So like, you know, what's the absolutely but moment here, Bill?
Well, absolutely. You might not be the obvious pick. Absolutely. But that doesn't mean you're not capable of blowing past every expectation.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Journalism was a favorite. Absolutely. But sovereignty, he stole the show. Uh,
yeah,
and I hate using the word, he didn't steal the show. He was just the better mutter runner of the day. He, he,
yeah.
he beat,
Any given Sunday, right? So
he beat,
that
yeah,
day he was
he beat the odds on favorite. And I can think of somebody who did that twice. Eli Manning.
sure.
Tom Brady, in theory, should have 9 Super Bowl rings, but he doesn't. He has 7. Eli Manning should have no Super Bowl rings, but he has 2. He beat Brady twice.
Twice. Nope.
Twice. And
Yeah.
it may be time for you and me to do the same. Stop playing it safe. If you get to the big game, give everything you have to win. Of course, I guess that's what everybody does anyway, except this last Super Bowl, which I enjoyed thoroughly. Just look it up. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Being a Broncos fan, I enjoyed it immensely, even though the Broncos
Sure.
weren't in the Super Bowl. So here's what sovereignty teaches us: the underdog going forward. Right? You and I. Let's say we're the underdogs, or let's say our listeners are. You're the underdog, and everybody says you can't do it. You can't win. You are not your odds. You are not the 7-1 underdog. You are not the 15-1 underdog. You're not. You are what you make of you.
So
You are what you make of you.
yeah, so you know, like you know, journalism essentially had kind of that universal approval. Everybody was probably cheering for them, other than those that were betting against him. But even those that were betting against journalism probably still in the back of their mind thought journalism has this. I'm just hoping maybe he doesn't, right? Just so I can make some, you know, make some bucks, whatever that might be. Um, but when those gates flung open, you just yeah, at that point you got to run your race and not try to beat somebody as much as just try to run your race the best that you can because you aren't your odds. And then no matter what's written, like that doesn't mean it's set in stone until it's set in stone.
Right.
You know, until you've crossed that finish line, doesn't matter what anybody's written about you or written about the other horse or written
Right.
about the other competitor,
Yeah.
whatever that is.
Yeah. You can outrun the narrative. Even when it's written by the professionals, everybody that knows everything about everything, the professional people that do all the analytics and all the odds makers, you can outrun that. Just because you're a certain age doesn't mean you have to lay down and roll over and quit. You keep at it. You keep moving. Now, I was just reminded, Jamie, of a short video clip. They're interviewing a high school runner after the race, and he lost. And the question was, how do you feel after, by losing the race to this other guy? Yada yada yada. He says, I feel great. And it took the interviewer by surprise. He says, I feel great. I ran a personal best today. I ran better than I've ever run before in my entire life.
Yeah.
The other guy, he was a better runner today, and I congratulate him. But man, I'm thrilled. I ran a personal best today. And he was basically saying, guess what? I'm not comparing myself to other people. I'm running my best race today. There you
Yeah.
go.
I mean, yeah, if you run your personal best and still get beat, like, how can you be upset over that?
Exactly. So we could use an excuse like, well, I'm not the favorite, so I won't try. I don't have enough credentials. I don't have enough followers. I don't have enough experience. I don't have enough. I don't have the fancy this or the fancy that. So that's the
I don't
excuse.
have the name.
I don't have the name. I don't have a really cool logo yet. All these kind of excuses, and that was kind of sovereignty. But yet,
Yeah.
sovereignty ended up in the winner's circle. So you may not be the favorite. It just doesn't matter. But you're writing your story right now, and that's the message we got today.
I like that. Just one little side note on this as well is we're recording this now that the Preakness has actually been run too, just a day or so ago. And what's interesting is journalism had won the Preakness and is probably the odds-on favorite to win the Belmont in a few weeks. But what's interesting is that Sovereignty was not even in the race, which means he's still kind of creating his own path to say, I don't need to run the Preakness. I don't have to. That's not who I am. I mean, it's obviously not the horse, but the owner is still kind of running their own race to saying, I'm not going to run all three for whatever reason,
Right. And the reason
choosing
what
their own
yeah,
path.
the reason the owner gave was kind of along the lines of it's too hard for the horse.
Yeah. And
Uh,
if that's true, then
It,
I
it's
applaud the owner.
it's
And
his
if it's not
yeah,
true, but there's another reason behind it, that's okay too. The fact is that the horse's name is still kind of he's still living up to his namesake in terms of I'm choosing how I'm going to do this.
right, right. And I love that. I
So
absolutely
what do
love
we
that.
do? So what do we need to? How do we wrap this up? And what do we want to put out to our listeners to take today's episode and how do they apply that?
I go back to the idea of you are not the odds.
Good.
You create your own odds. Uh, you may think of yourself as the underdog, and I would embrace that and let the underdog win. Be the Eli Manning to Tom Brady. Just do it that way, and everybody in Broncos country would absolutely love that. I'm just saying. So yeah, just run your own race, and
Regardless of what anybody else is saying.
don't let the hype in the competition bother you or get in your way. Run your own race. Just do
I
it.
love that.
Just do it. So
I think that's a great place for us to wrap this up. So run your own race, regardless of what else other people are saying. Hey, if you like today's episode, make sure you like us, give us a comment, share us, do whatever you're supposed to do on social to get it out to other people if you feel the need to do that. So for today's episode of Absolutely But, I am Jamie French, and that right there, that would be a Bill McConnell.
and that's Jamie French.